Good evening, everyone, and welcome. We have a wonderful workshop called The Chemical Combat, so defending your well-being. We have Dr. Justine and Dr. Udani here today. We realized you could have lots of questions. Dr. Justine has made herself available by text. Please feel free to jot down the number and give her a quick text if you have any questions. I wanted to welcome Dr. Justine here. She is our leader here at Justine Blainey Wellness Center. She is a passionate warrior for your and your family's health. And she genuinely believes that everyone deserves a healthcare team that focuses on prevention, optimal health, and open communication. So Dr. Udani is our naturopathic doctor here at the center. And she is a very, very passionate in many areas of health and wellness, including stress, chronic pain, lots of skin conditions. And she genuinely believes that you have the ability to make healthy and long-lasting changes to your health. Please help me welcome both Dr. Justine and Dr. Udani.
Hello, everyone. We've got exciting information for you today. And Dr. Udani is my naturopath, my doctor, where I do my physicals and my blood work so that it's way more thorough. We also have always every week something cool. Today, we're talking about dealing with those nasty toxins that are all around us. But coming up, we want to build some muscle and talk about how to build muscle and create better strategies and war plans, how to deal with nutritional deficiencies, how to deal with procrastination. How many people might do that a little bit or hit the snooze button? And how to strengthen your spine while deadlifting. That's with Emma, personal trainer, coming up. A great video, especially for those who get injured a lot doing deadlifting. Constantly see people getting injured at the gym when they're trying to do something helpful, and then it sets them way back. So our mission is to empower you to be healthier, stronger, and be able to have the energy for your family, for your community, to do the things that you love to do. But that means taking care of yourself. So we do that with chiropractic care and naturopathy, proper nutrition, and teaching the 5 essentials. So what we're talking about today is combating those horrible toxins. Because if you look back 50, 100 years ago, we didn't spray our food. The food didn't have lists and lists of ingredients that you can't read. Things are just so different. The way we manufacture our food, the way we deal with our air, the way we deal with our furniture, the way we deal with our carpet, our floors. Basically, there's just chemicals everywhere. Everything's being processed, and the thinking is 50 times worse. So we can't say that the strategies we used with our grandparents are the strategies we can use today. I'm thinking both my grandparents lived until they were 98. 98. But you know what? My grandparents ate off the farm. They ate off the ground. They learned to manage stress through the World War II. They swam and they exercised on a regular basis. They monitored their food and their nutrition and their sweets and their caffeine. They monitored their alcohol. So they had regular spiritual life. Like, it's not like it was an accident or a fluke. Many of us sure can have family lost way too early, but we do have some control over this. And so that's our goal today, to give you control back, to make the steps that you can. There's no perfect guarantee, but we do have the opportunity to take steps today. So we've got a lot of information coming. This is an amazing talk on getting you battle ready to deal with these toxins. There's such an increase of these toxins that they affect the host. That's us. They affect our overall health. And many of these come in the pesticides. So we're going to talk about how to look and read chemicals, look what's healthy, what's not. But honestly, if you can't read it, it's probably not good for you. If you don't understand it, it's probably not good for you as a main area. And then realize that this is all about money. They want to make things, food, chemicals, furniture, flooring, you name it, take care of your garden, whatever it is, your grass, faster, cheaper, faster, cheaper. And faster, cheaper is not better. And we need to realize that, yes, we all have to deal with costs and budgeting, but we've got to make sure our health is number one priority. So there's over 100,000 chemicals just lurking everywhere, from our air to our clothes to the floor to the food we eat. It's everywhere, to our cooking utensils, to the cleaning products. For example, before you even leave your home, you're even leaving your bathroom, you could have added over 50 chemicals, from just the water of brushing your teeth, the toothpaste, the mouthwash, chemicals that you might put on your hair, or hairspray, or makeup, or creams, or deodorants, your clothes, the cleaning products to clean your clothes, cleaning products to clean your bathroom. Man, it's scary. Like, just right before you leave your bathroom, you're in trouble before you even get to your kitchen. So that's why this talk's so important. So much information, because we can't control always our environment. So we got to think about what we can control. And some of these toxins are completely hidden, like toothpaste, like water, like our pots and pans, what we breathe outside. I know I love gardening, and I looked outside. I'm like, man, that Goldilocks, like the different types of toxins, those weeds, they just grow. Like, and you try to be on top of it, but you got to constantly be on top of it. Every week, those weeds come back. Well, that's the same in our health. That it's so easy to get off track. It's so easy to have things that pull you off, create weeds in your health, create toxins in your health, and that's why it needs regular help, regular coaching too, because we really can't see it all. I know that I walk around my house and oh man, how'd that get a foot tall? I didn't notice it yesterday, and now it's a foot tall, and I got to get that weed out of there. Well, that's the same thing in our health. Is we need to realize that some of these are toxins are just not in our consciousness, and we need to be able to help bring it to our consciousness to be helpful. So Dr. Udani's got a ton of information for you. Listen up, grab a pen if you can, because there's going to be so much information here in order to help you and help your family and your children to be their best. And hopefully you too can be like my grandparents, living to 98 with health and energy and focus and mental clarity.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Dr. Justine. And I so agree with you, Dr. Justine. Like, sometimes, these toxins are actually mostly hidden, and it can be so hard to find, and so hard to even think about how many things we're exposed to. Like you mentioned, coming out of the washroom, you're already exposed to so many. So, and it's like, it can feel a little overwhelming too, when you're thinking about how can I clear all of these out. So I'm going to jump into some of the ways our body helps detox toxins, how some of the most common causes of the toxins that we come into contact with as well, or sources of toxins. That way we at least are informed, and we can figure out easy steps to reduce that toxic load, because the toxins can really affect how we sleep, our digestive system, our memory, our reproduction, because it really can interfere with our cells, how the cells are working and the cellular pathways. And that's why it's really important to keep on top of our toxic load, because if it gets too high, then these symptoms can manifest. So what are some most common sources of toxins that we come into contact? We're kind of swimming, in this the sea of toxins, really, and it's everywhere, because as we have industrial revolution has happened, as technology has gone better, that doesn't necessarily mean our lives have gone better. Like our grandparents' age, things were more simple. We ate from the ground. We had way better clean water. Our pots and pans were formed with things that we knew, like things like wood or stainless steel. But as we gone more and more advanced, we've introduced more and more chemicals into our lives. So some of the most common chemicals that we can come into contact can be from pots and pans. So if you think about that non-stick, term in a pot and pan, or if it's made out of Teflon, yes, this might sound really convenient, but actually this nonstick coating, when it's exposed to really, really high temperatures, over 260 degrees Celsius, for example, and over time, it can really wear and tear and can release harmful chemicals into the air, into the food, and then you're ingesting it. Same thing with cosmetics, because think about lipstick, for example. We can wear it, rewear it throughout the day, and we're eating and we're drinking, and those chemicals, we're basically eating those chemicals as well. Same thing with it can have harmful chemicals and metals like aluminum in them, parabens. These can really affect your hormones as well. Even think about storage containers. I used to, in my family, we used to, whenever we got takeout, with that plastic container, we'd keep it in our cupboard for when we need to use it in a hurry for storing stuff. But you have to realize that this is made out of really cheap plastic, and you do not want to put this in the microwave, because that's going to heat up the plastic, and the parabens, the phthalates in that plastic is going to come into your food. And then what you do, you eat the food and it gets stored in your body. Same thing with the water. So the water quality, in our drinking water supply is really full of a lot of chemicals. We don't think about it because we think, oh, it's going through the cleaning process, it's going to be okay. But really, I'm going to talk a little bit more about how much stuff can be in our drinking water too. Shampoo and conditioner. We shampoo our hair how many times in a year? So many times. And so we're really introducing some of these chemicals into our scalp, and we're kind of we can absorb that through our skin. So if you think about, parabens, sulfates, these are things that you want to really keep an eye on in the ingredient list. Same with toothpaste, lots of different colors, fluoride dyes that can be in it, that can really affect your enamel and your teeth as well. And of course, cleaning products, you can know if something is really strong, sometimes by the smell of a cleaning product. Like now in my house, we usually mostly use baking soda or even vinegar, because sometimes that smell can really tell you that, okay, there's a lot of chemicals in this. So, and sometimes it could be things that we don't really think about, like hand sanitizers, or even some of the vaccines and the masks, because I think because after the pandemic, a lot of us have gone really, really nervous and anxious about germs and how to protect ourselves from germs. But we have to also remember that we are introducing a lot more chemicals into our bodies when we use too much of the hand sanitizers or wear the masks too many times, because, a lot of the clothing that the masks are made out of is made out of, it has flame retardants in it, BPA. These are all chemicals that you're breathing in and can affect your lungs, which is a detox organ. So we want to really keep an eye on this too, because I've actually had some patients who come into the office with irritation in their skin on their hands, like eczema, for example, because of overusing the hand sanitizers. And so, everywhere that we need to have balance, we need to make sure we're not overusing something just because we're afraid of germs, because our immune system is created to fight these germs. And it's when there's no interference, we know, okay, we have a strong immune system, we can handle whatever life kind of throws at us. But sometimes, even if you think about our overall health, air pollution can be a big factor that can lower and weaken our immune system. So if you think about air pollution these days compared to our grandparents' generation, there's just so much pollution out there. You can tell on a sunny day sometimes, if you go downtown, there's a smog. You can't even see the CN Tower sometimes because of how much smog there is, and that smog is the pollution. And that's what you're breathing in as you're walking or as you're driving. I always say, when you are driving and the car is idle, please do not, have your windows open, because you're just breathing in those fumes. Even though we can't see it, that doesn't mean it's not there, So, and sometimes we can't even smell it, but the pollution can still be there surrounding us. And that's why it's so important to lower this toxic burden. So how do we do this? How does the body do this? And that's our body does this through our detox pathways. So our body is, made by God in this most perfect way. So we are equipped with different organs, different systems that can help us with detoxification. So for example, if we think about the biggest player, our star player is the liver. The liver can help detox any chemicals, medications, heavy metals, and even like excess hormones, metabolites. And if we think about our kidneys help filter blood, filter out, and we can pee out excess chemicals, but also other parts of the in the detox pathway. It's a very, very important organ that plays along with the liver. Sweating, so our skin is another great detox organ. When we sweat, when we go to the sauna or have a good workout, we are sweating out a lot of these toxins and chemicals. And our lungs, when we're breathing in and breathing out, we are helping expel some of these chemicals as well and toxins. So that's why we want to really go for those nature walks where we're not walking. We don't want to be walking where the pollution is. We want to walk where there's no pollution to kind of help reduce that burden too. Our digestive system helps break down some of the chemicals and toxins we consume. And if we have a good digestive system, we know we have proper elimination. So we're going to the washroom at least once a day is ideal to make sure that we're clearing out our system too. Same thing with our lymphatic system. We've done some great talks on it about how I call it the toxin highway, of the body, because of the way it can really trap and get rid of some of the toxins in the body. So we have a pretty good system going, but sometimes, it doesn't work as well. And why is that? Because we have a high toxic load, because we are exposed to so many different things. If we have a lot of stress in our lives, and if we're not eating well, and we're just surrounded by a lot of these toxins, like Dr. Justine said, the weeds keep growing. We need to make sure we cut it. And one of the best ways we cut the toxin load is by supporting our detox pathways. But really, when you think about it, one of the really root causes of chronic disease is having a high toxin load and you're not being able to clear it out properly. So if you think about a clogged pipe, right? If we don't clear it, it just keeps getting more and more clogged, and then you're going to start to see those the downstream effects of that, in the house. Just like that, when we have a high toxin load, it's going to weaken our immune system. It's going to weaken our detox pathways, and it can really manifest in chronic diseases. So what are some toxins that can weaken our immune system? So glyphosate, which is the pesticide, Roundup, is something that can really affect our digestive system. It can even cause so much inflammation that you can have leaky gut. So leaky gut is a whole other story. We've done lots of talks on it. Mold and mycotoxins. So this is where, when you go into a home, or you can sometimes even smell, there's a smell to the mold, spores, and mycotoxins. They can really weaken your immune system, really soak up lots of the minerals that our body needs so that we feel so much fatigue. Chronic sinus infections can be a sign of it too. Phthalates can be found in everywhere from drinking cups to baby bottles to shampoos. So that can really affect our hormones as well. Heavy metals, if you like sushi, I'm sorry, you really want to really watch out for these, because mercury can be really high in seafood if it's not sourced properly, if you're not having the wild caught salmon, for example. And same thing with sometimes our drinking water, can contain heavy metals too. Organophosphates can be found in cleaning products, and it's actually can be found in insecticides and herbicides. So pesticides can contain a lot of organophosphates, which once again just increases that toxin burden. Same thing with xylene. It's found in gasoline, for example. And we want to think about microbial endotoxins. So these are toxins created by our bad bacteria, the bad fungi, the parasites. That can really also increase that toxic burden. And this is where I love to tell my patients about, the toxic bucket theory, So if you think about all of this, as adding to your bucket. When you're healthy, so which means your detox pathways are good, you generally don't have a lot of stress, or you manage it really well. The toxin bucket, the amount of toxins in the bucket is relatively low. So that means you're able to go through life with lots of energy, and you don't feel any kind of too much illness, or you don't feel that, experience that. But as these chemicals and toxins, get in there, stress comes in there, processed foods, overuse of medications, sometimes illnesses, the bucket starts to get higher and higher, and then it can overflow, and that's when the disease actually happens. Now, this is why I love what we do. I love what myself and Dr. Justine do, because we look out for this bucket, and we look out to see that this is not overflowing in our patients, because we're all about prevention. We want to make sure this bucket, the toxin level, stays in low or minimal, because otherwise this just keeps growing. And that's why it's so important to have a coach on your team that can let you know, this is why it's important for you to keep an eye on this or that, because sometimes life can get really, really busy, and we don't really know how to do this too. So this is why the toxic bucket theory, if you think about it, we don't want to have that bucket overflowing. We want it to be low, as less as possible. And, if you think about, how do I know if this is overflowing? If you think about chronic stress, am I stressed all the time? Is it getting harder and harder for me to deal with stress? That can add to the bucket. Am I eating a lot of processed foods? Am I craving? Am I going to McDonald's, Burger King? Am I giving it to my children? And is this happening every day of the week because life is so busy? That's adding to the bucket. If you're using too many antibiotics because you might have too many UTIs, urinary tract infections, or coughs and colds, the antibiotics are really, really they really impact your gut microbiome. So that adds to your bucket as well. Same thing with other pathogens. So if you're chronically sick, that's adding. Environmental toxins, like we're talking about, all these chemicals, there's adding as well. If you use lots of antacids or lots of aspirin, Tylenol, that can really lower your stomach acid levels, and just increase your body's weaken your immune system as well. Food sensitivities, gluten, dairy, this is rising, and one of the reasons rising in our younger generations is because this toxic bucket, we have, where too many toxins is overflowing. Same thing with if you're using frequently use of drugs, for example, because our liver is what's helping us detox and metabolize the drugs. If there's too many of that, that's going to really affect our liver as well. So I know it can sound a little overwhelming, and this is why it's so important to have somebody on your team that knows how to support your system. But also we want to empower you to follow some of the tips and tricks, things that we have on this talk as well. So what's in a glass of tap water? I mean, what's not in a glass of tap water is probably the better answer, a better question, because, there is a lot, a lot of things, and it's still considered safe to drink. But, as we have gotten, like I said, more and more advanced, there's a lot of stuff that gets dumped into our lakes and our rivers, and it just accumulates. And, if you think about heavy metals, if you think about pesticides, hormones, things like aluminum, pharmaceutical drugs. So something interesting is that I found was kind of unsettling, to be honest, was that they did a study on the Thames River, which is the biggest river, most common river in London. And they found that the number of pharmaceutical drugs, the trace amounts of it, has been like more than doubled or tripled since like 20 years ago. So you can imagine, you're just ingesting all of this, from just tap water. So having proper filtration, can be so important when we are looking into it, because I tell my patients to drink water all the time, because water is so important for your health. But we also want to be mindful that there can be a lot of stuff in the water, and we want to make sure we use a good quality filter that can hopefully mop up some of this before we drink it.
And bring a water bottle to the center. We have clean water right by the big TV. Bring your water bottles, fill them up. Every time you come to
Absolutely.
the office, fill up your water bottle or two.
Absolutely, that's such, and you can tell the difference in the taste, I think, because that water just tastes so much more fresh, and that's very, very true. So let's go also into how these chemicals can really affect your brain, because a lot of these toxins and chemicals, they love to get stored in our fatty tissue. So, and our brain and our nervous system is composed mostly of cholesterol and healthy fats. So it will get really accumulated in our brain. So if you think about children, babies, as we're younger, if you're exposed to this, it's going to manifest in more disease because for them their bucket is smaller, right? It's going to fill up so much faster. If you think about lead, mercury, pesticides, the phthalates from cleaning products, even the like the clothing, because there can be flame retardants in this clothing too, and even the sofa, because it's just like Dr. Justine mentioned, the regulations have gone so much more stricter in order to protect us, but that means we're covered in so many more chemicals. So these are some of the chemicals that are known to disrupt brain development, and we really want to support our detox pathways to help reduce this burden. So how does our body function? How does our body help eliminate some of these chemicals? Because we want to empower our body as well. We don't want to just say we're swimming in toxins and that's it. We can't give up. No, we want to support our chemical elimination pathways. So when toxins enter through our lungs or our skin, we touch it or we're consuming it, it all usually goes into the liver. This is where it gets processed, right? So the liver, we really want to support the liver function. So if you're drinking a lot of alcohol, or if you are, not drinking enough water, that can really impair our liver's ability to detox and process some of these toxins. So the liver is what kind of directs all the toxins to go to places. So it might induce, sometimes if you have skin problems like acne or eczema, that could mean that the liver is having trouble with eliminating the toxins. Kidneys, also, kidney stones, chronic infections, that could mean that the kidneys are having trouble with eliminating. The same thing with colon. If you have polyps or bleeding or diarrhea and just too much constipation, those could be signs that your colon is having trouble with detoxing. Same thing with lungs. If you have asthma or chronic lung conditions, that means the lungs aren't being able to work well too. And so all of these organs, they all work well together. But sometimes we need to support them. And of course, sometimes when there's too many toxins in the body and all of these organs aren't working well, due to, there are just too many other factors, then it can actually get stored in our fat cells, our bone marrow, the brain, blood, joints, and muscles. So this is what we don't really want, because we don't want these toxins to get too stored. We want them to leave our body, and that's why we want to boost our liver, boost our the health of our kidneys, our skin, colon, and lungs, and our nervous system, so that way this elimination can happen well. And so this is why
Dr. Udani prescribed to Dr. Blake, my husband, a specific supplement to help his liver function. And also, if you are somebody who likes alcohol, this is something that can be toxic. One of the areas, not just the alcohol, but what the alcohol is mixed with. And you know that because certain drinks or certain wines with the sulfur can affect you more the next day, not just a hangover, but it just the sluggishness and the brain fog the next day. So definitely looking at overall liver function with your naturopath and finding the right supplement for you. Because let's face it, you go into a health food store, it can be overwhelming with rows and rows of supplements. How do you know this one is the right one for you, or that it's just a good quality supplement for your liver? And that's why we always recommend talking to a specialist to get the right supplement, so you're not just throwing money down the toilet, and you're making sure that it's actually going to be effective for you.
Mm-hmm. That's such a good point, Dr. Justine, about the supplements, because sometimes we really want to make sure the supplements are good quality, because then if not, they can add to the toxic burden. Yes. So when I see my patients, I tell them to bring all the supplements they're taking, because I take a look at them one by one to let you know, okay, this is a good quality one, or this has enough dosage of the right ingredients in it. So it's a great question. Great point. So we really want to keep ourselves healthy, and this is where we want to, of course, reduce our burden of the toxins. We want to have a proper exercise routine. We want to adapt the chiropractic care, healthy mindset. There's lots of good things coming up about how we can combat and how we can lower that toxic burden. Because that's when we can really allow our body to do what it can, because our body does know how to combat and how to do this if these pathways are clear, if our mindset is good. Because you might notice that sometimes there's people that are constantly getting sick, but then there's the same people in the same family or around them that don't get sick. And why is that? It really has to do with their toxic body burden. Because some of us, and I don't want to point and say this is because of genetics, because genetics they can load the gun, but it's their lifestyle that can manifest and pull the trigger in illnesses and things like that. So we want to really support you by helping you heal through lifestyle changes, diet changes, mindset changes, because that can really empower your body to combat these chemicals.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Udani. So being able to combat means becoming a warrior. And that's what we're talking about, solutions, because it's not all gloom and doom. So with Max Living 5 Essentials, we want to maximize your nervous system, your nutrition, your exercise. And we want to minimize the toxins and all of that. To do all of that, we need the proper mindset, because honestly, we're not doing anything or making any of the right choices if our mindset is not in the right places. So we talked about those chemicals in your food and looking towards trying to get organic as much as possible, looking at the Dirty Dozen, and looking at having a nutrition consultation, doing a two-week journal diet of what am I eating, right? What is actually going in my mouth? How much water how many ounces am I actually drinking? And I can give you an example. Last night, I have a water bottle, 2 on my kitchen counter at all times, so I'm drinking more water, a water bottle in all 3 of my rooms, so that no matter what, I'm trying to get 2 liters of water a day, starting my day with water every morning. However, I realized yesterday it was a warmer day. I worked 16 hours. I did not drink enough water. So sure enough, your you can get calf cramps if you're not hydrated enough. And so it's super important to get that healthy water and to look at our foods and quality of food. So one of the best things there is trying to read one label every single week of something that comes in your home, whether it's a food or it's a cleaning product, even starting to look at a mat. I remember one of my patients bought a mat from the dollar store, and it looked pretty, it looked soon enough, but every time she walked into her house, she felt constricted and trouble with breathing and felt her tongue get fuzzy and fat. And it took her a long time to realize that that mat was toxic for her and she needed to throw it out so that she wouldn't have these allergic like symptoms. And you can say, well, that's a bad thing, but those symptoms are warning signs to say, hey, this isn't good. So if you have diarrhea, if you have constipation, if you have allergies, if you have skin concerns, these are warning signs to see a health professional and find out what's going on and get to the root cause, rather than just trying to mask those symptoms.
Absolutely, Dr. Justine, because I think those are sometimes we think, oh, it's normal or it's okay, everybody's going through this, but that does not mean it's actually good. We don't want to be normal. We want to be always above average, right? I think so. This is why it's really important to pay attention to those warning signs, because our body definitely sends out lots of warning signs. That the yellow, like if you think about green, yellow, red, the yellow light can be turned on for a long time before it gets worse and manifests in something much more serious. So always listen to your body, listen to these warning signs, and get help when you have these signs. And we also want to talk about sometimes then in the food that we eat, these toxins can accumulate as it goes up the food chain. Now we are kind of on the top of the food chain, where we tend to eat a lot of food, especially, and if you think about seafood, where there is that the fatty seafood, salmon, sardines, you really want to go for the small size fish. The larger the fish, there's more toxins being accumulated in the fish, because the bigger the fish, they eat a lot of the small fish, and the amount of toxins in all of that small fish just gets accumulated in the big fish. And so, like I mentioned before, heavy metals tend to love fatty tissue. So it gets accumulated in fatty tissue, and as it goes up the food chain of the seafood, the higher the amounts are. So I highly recommend, when you're looking for sources of fish, look for cold water, wild caught Pacific salmon. You want to also go for the smaller fish as well, because then you're not exposed to too much of that high numbers of the heavy metals.
And Dr. Udani, where I used to eat a lot of shrimp. And yeah, they taste good. And you think about it, like shrimp in pasta, shrimp for an appetizer. The bigger the shrimp, the better, right? But when you get it, it's all cleaned up, you don't realize how much toxins in there, and they're a bottom feeder. So I'm not saying no shrimp, but definitely be aware that they are a bottom feeder. They tend to have more toxins in them, those bottom feeders, and those fish that are closer to the bottom, that are basically eating the poop of the ocean. So cautious with amount, and definitely looking at all of these areas that we're going to talk about in extreme moderation. If you go to none, and that causes you extreme cortisol response and feel like you're overstressed because you can never have it, then find that real moderation area. But honestly, the more you just quit one thing at a time, a little thing at a time, and just it's a no-go, it becomes easier and easier to add one more thing, a little bit at a time, to create that healthier diet.
Mm-hmm. That's a really good point, actually, Justine, because sometimes it can be so overwhelming to just cold turkey quit something. I always tell my patients to just follow the 80-20 rule. So 80% of the time, try to stick to the clean diet, clean eating. But 20% of the time, we're supposed to live, we're supposed to enjoy. It's okay. Of course, that's just the general rule, right? There's different things where moderation can be really, really helpful. Or if you have a lot of a toxic burden, it might be important to just do it very strictly for 2 to 3 weeks or a month, depending on what your naturopath or your chiropractor says. And so, yeah, this is very individualized. It can be different for everybody, for sure.
Share a story, Dr. Udani. That was one of my mom's problem when she first got cancer. Was she was truly in a toxic overload, and also with parasites. And so pretty much 100% of people with cancer have parasites and have toxic overload. And so for her, working with her naturopath, finding ways to detox and really work on eliminating those toxins from her diet to create a healthier temple, so she could fight that cancer, get back to a healthier state, a healthier temple. But eventually it just becomes too heavy to lift, and your body creates more and more toxic cells, and it leads towards disease. So like Dr. Udani said, we want to catch it in the yellow area before you're in the red area, like my mother with cancer. And she made so many major changes for 5 years, so great. But then she got overconfident, like, oh, now I'm healthy. And then add a little more of these poor choices. And then those poor choices built on those poor choices and built on. And next thing you know, she gets cancer a second time. And you have family who have made these mistakes too. Like, this is we're all at risk, right? Because it's our eyes are so big that our wants are so big. It's sometimes hard to resist and really follow that 80-20 rule. So that's why we're going to talk about later having the health professionals on your side, having a second set of eyes, having family and friends support, and sort of following having some double yellow lines where meaning you just don't cross the road there. You just don't do it. And for me, that was, even though I love shrimp, I gave up shrimp. Even though I used to drink alcohol, I gave up drinking alcohol. I don't need alcohol to enjoy my family and friends. I'm not saying that alcohol here and there is bad. I had to personally make certain choices that I don't go there because I know that when I do, it's so easy to start making more and more poor choices. For example, I love ice cream. I actually think it tastes great. I love cold sweets, but I don't order ice cream. I don't eat ice cream for dessert. I don't if it's in the home for a family party, I choose to have a bite, right? Like, so the 80-20 rule, I'll take a bite from my husband and so I can have a taste, but I won't order it myself. That's my double yellow line. I don't care if the ice cream truck calls and I feel like I want it. No, I don't order it. I can have a bite.
Oh, I love that. That's so smart, Dr. Justine, having because you know what your body is saying no to, and you're very aware of that. So I think a lot of us sometimes aren't really even aware of what our body's saying, and we need to get that some of that outside help by somebody, a coach, to identify what foods might not be sitting well with you, what things and practices might not be affecting you. Like for me, it's definitely dairy. You know, when I have too much dairy, I know my skin gets angry and says no, no more. So that's a double yellow line for me, to be as conscious about going dairy free as possible. Of course, there's gonna be mistakes, but I don't beat myself up too much about it because I know I can get back on the wagon. So that's also really important. I think having like that kind of mindset where you're not gonna get too stressed over if you do have a stressful day, because we all do. You know, it's life, but we just get back on it, back on the wagon afterwards with the right support around us. So if you think about some of the top 5 most toxic foods, a lot of this is, takeout food. If you think about it, it's made out of fried, like really bad seed oils. It could be packaged in lots of plastic, lots of styrofoam, and made out of a lot of GMO foods like soy, corn, artificial colors, artificial sweeteners. So a lot of these are what they're doing is they're made to make your brain crave it, of course, right? If you think about, if you give a child McDonald's, milkshake versus apples, maybe 9 times out of 10 they're gonna go for the milkshake because it's just made with all of these synthetic chemicals and toxins that makes our brain crave it. So this is why it's so, sometimes it can be really hard to say no, and that's why it's important to have that support around you, and especially in the first phases of how to properly eliminate these things and have that guideline. And so these toxic foods, we want to eliminate as much as possible. Like I said, 80-20 rule, you want to cut this down as much as possible. So even if you think about takeout in terms of how much salt it has, how much of the excess salt, excess sugar. A lot of these takeout foods, they taste good because it's actually overloaded with sugar, overloaded with the excess salt that also makes our brains crave it more and more. But it's actually really, really toxic for us. And we want to detox these foods as much as possible. I used to have a really, really bad sweet tooth, to be honest. I'll come home from work or school, and the first thing I used to have was some cookies because my brain just kept craving the sugar. And then I noticed that I was getting super bloated. My skin wasn't as good, and I was feeling so much fatigue. So these are the early signs, of my body saying, "Hey, this is not good for me. I don't like this." So it's very important to identify these signs and get help when you do need it to release it. Because turns out I also end up having other things like parasites in me that was craving these sugar the unhealthy food that was driving the need for it too. So sometimes you need to go deeper, maybe there's additional testing, additional hormone testing, testing for your liver, stool testing that can really figure out what is driving your need for these toxic foods. So let's also go ahead, Dr. Justine.
I was just going to say that if you are ordering out, put it on a real plate with a real fork. So get it out of the plastic, especially if it's hot, out of the container, out of the wrapper, and out without eating with plastic as much as you can.
Yes, that's such a good point. You wanted that the heat in the styrofoam is not good, or in the plastic. We want to remove that, put it on a plate as quickly as possible. Let's talk about, now we talked about the toxic foods. Now we want to talk about the detoxing foods that nourish our detox system. Of course, we want to add lots of color, lots of color, lots of veggies, things that we can actually understand. And when we look at the ingredients, so if it has one ingredient, okay, it's good for you, like broccoli, blueberries, strawberries, lots of fruit. Actually, they did a very, very good long-term study of over 90,000 women over 18 years, where they found that having just one bowl of blueberries, just one bowl a week, just a week, can reduce your risk of heart disease by 30%. So you can see, so it's so powerful how much of these antioxidants and how many good things these blueberries have, strawberries, raspberries, in terms of supporting your detox system. Now, you do want to be mindful because sometimes these berries can be really, really sprayed with pesticides. So strawberries always tend to be on the top 3 of the highest most pesticides in the food. So this is where you want to go for the organic if you can, or use something like a baking soda wash. This is where you put about 3 tablespoons of baking soda in water, and you soak the berries for about 20 minutes to really remove some of the pesticides out, because we don't want to introduce more, even though we want to help our system. So go for the organic berries as much as possible. We want that cruciferous veggies. I'm so happy that it's summer now, because we are growing lots of kale, lots of cucumbers and things like that in the garden. Brussels sprouts, broccoli, these are all cruciferous veggies that help our liver detox better. So what I usually tell my patients is to try to maybe steam it a little bit, very lightly, so that it's easier for your body to digest it, and because it's so full of anti-cancer properties as well. We want that healthy fats, from fish, so wild-caught Pacific salmon, omega-3 fatty acids are so, so powerful in lowering inflammation. And turmeric, that yellow spice, is so, so, so powerful. There's so much research behind it on how good it is for joints, arthritis, for your liver, for preventing cancer. So when we think about these things, we just want to add to our diet. And it could be just having, like I mentioned, one bowl of berries a week. It doesn't have to be super strict, or having a half your plate have the cruciferous veggies, so steamed broccoli or baked Brussels sprouts, kale, things like that. Having some fish 3 times a week, or even sprinkling turmeric. You can even make a turmeric latte. It's great before you go to bed, put a teaspoon of turmeric, make it with some oat milk or almond milk, and some little bit of honey if you like to, and it's very calming as well. So you want to add these things, and it could be as easy as just adapting one habit per week. It can build up a lot at the end of the year. And sometimes we need some additional support. So this is an example of a detox system bundle that you might need to use, because it has different supplements, different liver support, kidney support supplements, and also that can support your digestive system. So when you come see me, for example, I usually recommend my patients to go on some supplements to really boost their liver. And so this can be very, very individualized for you and for your needs. So, and I always say the foundation is the food and lifestyle, but sometimes we need that supplements to support that detox system.
Thank you, Dr. Udani. And those essential oils, turmeric, curcumin, we do have them in capsules at the office, high level quality. And the reason why, that's what our family uses. So what's at our office is what we use. That's why we're not like a dispensary health food store, but we're going to make sure that what we have is high level quality. And sometimes that you just can't do it right in your diet. For example, I'm pretty wimpy for hot foods. My husband can do very well with it. My mom can as well. But for me, I'm a wimp. So I will make sure that I'd rather use a capsule because I do know that it would be healthy for me. On the other side, the essential oil capsules are a little bigger than a regular pill. Not massive, but they are a little bit bigger. So I also have trouble swallowing them. So I'd rather eat more healthy wild fish, whereas my husband would prefer wild healthy meat. So he'll use the capsules and I'll eat the fish. So you just have to make sure that you're also customizing these areas to your own personal likes and dislikes. And that's why having a coach along the way. For healthy cleaners, our house uses melaleuca and vinegar, right? There might be times throughout the year that you need something a little more strong if a mold developed or we had a leak in the roof. But honestly, we moved out and had someone else deal with it because we knew that it was toxic and they could have the proper masks to take care of it. So just being very, very careful. The other one is these scents that people put like hanging from in their car, totally toxic. Like the pine, the little whatever. It's like a little cardboard thing that hangs from your mirror. The scents that people put in their wall in the light switch or in the plug. Even many incense, be very, very careful that so many of these things that we're smelling, and they might smell good, but that doesn't mean it's healthy. And the other one is candles. Looking for true beeswax. There are a lot of cute looking candles with cute sayings, for example, from winners. I'm all for something that looks cute. However, be careful because cute can be toxic as well. So, and these toxins eventually become hormone disruptors. So look for clean alternatives. So one of the things, for example, I was at Sephora with my daughter on the weekend, and you can ask specifically for help. Which are the clean brands of creams, makeups? You can ask for clean alternatives, for example, at Healthy Planet. So making sure that you're asking for help. Because honestly, like I knew about Tarte, for example, for the makeups, but I wanted some other advice. And it was great that everything was labeled properly at Sephora and I was able to get the assistance I needed. So when you want to ask yourself, though, and you don't have that assistance, the amazing thing with these apps now is you can use these squares. There's different apps where you can take a picture of the product of the healthy pop, for example, or the crackers, and it can rate it on how healthy is it. So take a picture of this one because there are some amazing resources to check your foods. Download some of these apps so that it becomes, again, one product a week to make sure you're safer and safer. Exercise is so healthy. We just did a talk on exercising in a fasted state, who should and who shouldn't do it. So check that one out. But we want to sweat. And I know some people would prefer to glow or perspire versus sweat. But honestly, the more you sweat, the healthier you eat, the more you don't smell, right? So I know some people are worried about smelling, but then that might be an area to say, okay, maybe I am toxic.
Mhm.
My fat is storing toxic and there's a reason for it. And I need to get some assistance to reduce that smell and to make it easier. Because the last thing we want to do is put on something toxic under our armpits that's actually antiperspirant that's toxic and increasing that toxic load. So be very, very careful. Get our body sweating, ideally 5 days a week, 30 minutes a day to maintain. 5 days a week, 30 minutes. 30 minutes a day is the goal to maintain. So to be very, very careful. Now, some people say, I don't have time, right? Like, I'm so busy. Honestly, you're as busy as you create it. Create those routines, those double yellow lines. I know exactly when I'm exercising, and that's 6 days a week. I make sure some days will be a half an hour, some days will be 2 hours. Anything on top of that is a bonus, like a family bike ride or an extra walk. But I have a double yellow line. I know exactly my workout days, Tuesday through Sunday. I take Monday off. So I do believe in having a day of Sabbath. Monday, I'm still doing a ton of walking. I'm still getting over 20,000 steps, but I'm not doing the weights or I'm not doing a heavy sport. So choose your specific times, create your routine, your calendar, and then book everything else around that. Make those the big pillars, the priorities in your life. Now, when we look at detoxing our mind, that's crucially important today. We live in the social media world and we're attached to this. And it's horrible because this is what people use before they go to bed, creating toxic information into their brains rather than reading a book or time for prayer or spirituality, meditation. My last seminar, they recommended having, if you can't do it, a cleanse where you're fasting from social media for start with 12 hours. Don't pick up your phone, don't pick up a computer, don't pick up any type of social media for 12 hours, and then work towards 24 hours and then a 48-hour media fast, phone fast. So we don't get addicted to this that's creating crap in our minds. And we're filling that bucket that Dr. Udani talked about, filling it with good stuff, and then creating those double yellow lines on what we're going to take time for with our phones. What's the for example, for me, I check my phone during the week 3 times a day: morning, lunch, evening. Not constantly every hour having it on my body, purposely having it off my body and having it 3 times a day that I will check it, only typically in 30-minute sessions. If I am going to check what's happening on Facebook or for me, TikTok, I'm focusing and making sure I'm looking for exercise videos. I'm looking for nutrition information. I'm narrowing my search so to something that's going to create happiness, create knowledge, something that's going to help develop me rather than pull me down. So narrowing that search. And if something looks useless, scroll by, push it by. There's so much out there, so that we're really filtering what's going into our mind. Now, when we're looking at that healthy body to be our best, it's 100% function. So what is that for you? Energy to go to the park, energy to go for a bike ride, energy to go for a hike, to get on the ground and play with your niece or nephew or your children. If you don't have the energy to, do a horsey ride, to do a piggyback ride, and you're under 65, there's areas to work on. I can get it. We can have different injuries and different challenges in our life and certain periods, or what we call seasons of difficulty, but that can be a season. That's not a life schedule. And if we don't have that 100% function, then we're not truly living to be our best for our family and our friends. And so to get true health, we want 100% function. And that starts with the main computer system, our brain and our nervous system, sending messages down the spine to every cell, tissue in our organ in our body. And for that nervous system that controls everything in our body, that is how it helps us adapt to all these challenges. None of us are free of challenges. We have challenges from work, challenges from sitting, challenges from all these toxins that we're talking about, challenges from family stress, challenges from bereavement, um, challenges with family or friends and disagreements. We're dealing with these challenges, whether it's sitting too much, dealing with the toxins, dealing with the phone, dealing with working on a computer. All of these challenges, lifting a purse on the same side all the time, a phone on the same pocket all the time, a wallet in the same pocket all the time, shoes that are worn out and uneven, high heels. All of these areas create toxins to the spine, affecting that brain body connection. And the better we take care of our spine and our brain body connection, the better we're able to adapt to these challenges. So, what chiropractors and honestly osteopaths as well help to find and remove these subluxations. And as we remove the subluxations, those misalignments in the spine, That helps our body detox. That helps our body send the messages to that liver that we just talked about, help it function better. The message from our brain to the kidneys that we just talked about to help our body function better. Messages to our skin, which is the largest organ in our body, to help us sweat out better. So what are the interferences that cause these subluxations, these misalignments in the spine that affects the nerves that exit? Is the 3 T's: thoughts, traumas, and toxins. So negative thoughts, negative input from the phone, from books, from media, from people, all right, bosses, friends, and family, that can cause toxins. And you know that because when you're stressed out, you tense up, right? You can get stomach problems. The other area is traumas, and traumas aren't just car accidents and sporting injuries. That's repetitive strain on your computer, on your phone, that can cause these repetitive traumas. Just sitting too much, standing still too much, standing with a twisting motion. If you work in a factory, causes these traumas. And finally, as we talked about today, these toxins are everywhere. And so the areas of doing adjustments, specific customized adjustments, specific spinal rehab to help support your spine and nervous system, the proper pillows, the proper bedding can help the spine nervous system function well. Along with our naturopath, Dr. Udani, and our acupuncturists, they also look at acupuncture. And acupuncture is very, very gentle, and it can help also the body with detoxification, reducing those muscle tensions, which will help the body maintain alignment much easier. And that's why the teamwork approach. I don't believe just one health practitioner is the end all and the be all. It can't be your medical doctor, it can't be your chiropractor, it can't be your naturopath, it can't be your massage therapist, your osteopath. We all need a team of healthcare practitioners working for us. All right. Just like a hockey team, you need wingers, centers, defense, and a goalie. For our health and our full health response, we need a team approach. And that's why Dr. Udani and I love to work together. Coming up, we also want to make sure we're aware of these warning signs. A lot of times we just take that headache, pop a few Tylenol, pop a few Advil, and the headache goes away. But it actually means you just don't feel the headache. It's masking those symptoms, but it's not actually saying, oh my goodness, this is a warning sign. I better get to the root cause. Same as high blood pressure. Taking a high blood pressure pill and telling me my blood pressure is normal is still not normal. And looking still at why did you need that medication? Can you reduce that medication with support and monitoring with your naturopath and your medical doctor? Even signs of depression, anxiety, brain fog, acid reflux, food intolerances can be areas where your spinal nervous system isn't functioning well. Your body is under those stress of the 3 T's: thoughts, traumas, and toxins. And if you can reduce that sympathetic stress, your body's going to be able to function better. So we always say test, don't guess. Get your spine and your nervous system checked with your chiropractor. Look for thermal scans. Look for proper curve correction exercises, x-rays. Make sure that your doctor is doing all the testing and regular testing. That just came up the other day where a person said, I don't want those checkups. I don't want those progress exams. I said, absolutely you do. You want regular monitoring. If you didn't have regular monitoring, why would you check your blood pressure on a regular basis? Just because you think it's normal doesn't mean it is normal. You want to catch a problem before you feel it. You want to be making sure that what you're doing is working. If it is working, great. Hallelujah. That's why you go to the dentist, get regular checkups to make sure a cavity isn't developing, right? We want to make sure we get our regular blood pressure checks to make sure high blood pressure or low blood pressure isn't developing. That's the same with your spine, your nervous system. Same with your blood work with Dr. Udani, with your naturopath, is doing regular checkups. So for myself, I see Dr. Udani every summer, make sure I get a full blood work panel, way more than what my husband got with his medical doctor. And we make sure we do and so now he's kind of switching over to, by the way, because we start to see the differences in the quality of care. Remember that you get more when you pay more. And I know that all of us want a sale, want a deal, want what's cheap, want what's free, but realize that you can get better quality and make those choices, and especially do that with your healthcare because that's your number one possession. So these are some of the warning signs of subluxations to make sure you're getting regular checkups. And our goal is to get to the root cause, not mask it with some kind of medication, but also even some kind of supplement. As Dr. Udani said, we want to try and deal with the root cause. That's looking at healthy foods first, healthy environment first, healthy exercise first, healthy mindset, healthy spirituality, working at those 5 essentials, getting to the root cause rather than trying to mask it. And that includes even masking it with tons of adjustments. I'd rather our patients do amazing home rehab exercises, amazing spinal rehab, neurology work. They need fewer adjustments. In the end, that would still be better, taking care of the 3 T's, and so that your body gets regular checkups, regular maintenance work, but not being reliant on it. So our goal is to help you be your best for your family, your community, and using these warning signs as a tool to say, hey, I need help, and let's get my team helping me and working together. So as we come up, some of your action steps: get your regular spinal checkups, regular progress exams, making sure you're doing things right. And could you be doing more? Are you doing your regular and the proper exercises, spinal rehab? Are you getting the um, the curve correction that you need, or do you need to do a little bit more because you've been under a more stressful times? For example, you're moving. That can be very, very stressful. You've just come back from a big holiday, or you're playing an aggressive sport. Get your regular naturopathic consultations. Like I said, I do my physical and a blood work with Dr. Udani annually, and then regular checkups with her to make sure I'm on the right track. It's not just dealing with the problem, it's making sure preventing problems. Regular routines, we started about those double yellow lines for your mind detox from especially your phone, from social media, and especially from the TV and the negative Nelly news. Double yellow lines for your exercise routine. Make that a priority, not something you fit in, it's something you fit everything around. Reading at least one label a week, or using your phone to use the app to check one label a week. You can consider the hot cold showers. Honestly, I find this one difficult. I'd rather just sweat it out. But if you're not getting those opportunities to really get a good deep sweat, that means like your clothes are wet. If you're not able to do that, then you might want to consider some of our other detox talks and doing the contrast bathing. And again, be careful that it doesn't cause too much of a cortisol response. And then always learning. And that's me every day, focusing on daily one thing, that you're learning one new thing a week, one new thing a day if you can. And then think about how much better you're going to be at the end of that year, end of 2 years, end of 10 years. None of us can do it all. We're all on this path. It's a path of progression, a path of learning, and just that grace too when we make a mistake, or we make some poor choices. Okay, I'll do better tomorrow. Let me learn from this and do better tomorrow. We call in our office, we call them life lessons, learning lessons, and all we can do is do better tomorrow. So thank you for being with us. Stay connected with us. Stay connected with the best 5 people you can. If you want to be healthier, hang out with someone healthier. If you want to exercise, hang out with people who exercise more than you or more fit than you. If you want to eat healthier, hang out with people who make healthier choices. If you want to have better spirituality, hang out with people who seem to feel more comfortable in their spirituality than you. Are the best of the 5 people, but the thing is, you have control of who those 5 people you spend the most time with. And some of those that are toxic relationships, toxic friendships, then reduce those times. I know for my family, I need to plan ahead. I plan the times with the cousins, the friends, the family. Even if you can't see them, the FaceTime connection. I know I have a doctor I want to connect with this Friday, and we planned it at 8:45 p.m. so that way we would make sure we have that time of connection, to build ourselves up and to make ourselves better. So planning that time. And one of the ways to connect with something that's going to help you grow is with us every single week. So connect with us, Connect with our team. We have the most amazing team: massage, acupuncture, physiotherapists, naturopaths like Dr. Udani, holistic nutritionist Sabine, looking at active release therapy, kinesiology, cupping, emotional release therapy. There's so much out there. This is our team. We also have referrals for osteopaths and reflexology and Reiki, like our spirituality, our pastors. Create your healthcare team and join us for our wellness talks on a regular basis. Stay connected with us every week. Every week we try this volunteer to bring something new to you. Please do a review to help us help others. Please pass this information on to others because we're here to help you grow and we're growing along with you. So stay tuned for more. We care. I know this was a long one, but it was jam packed with information. We look forward to being with you soon.
Thank you so much, everybody. We hope you learned a lot and have a lovely evening.